Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. My name is Dawn, and I have the delightful.
I'm Dixie.
Yes. You said at one
Yay!
point, you were like, I love that you call me delightful. And it just rolls off my tongue.
I love that word, delightful.
Well, you are delightful. You're a very delightful soul. So I'm
That
glad
you're
you're
so
here.
sweet. Oh my gosh, I
Oh,
feel the same way about you.
well, thank
At
you.
work, I tell them all the time at work. I'm like, I don't know what your problem is. I'm a delight.
So the people that like the people that work underneath you that have problems with you, like if you have to get on them or something, you're like, really, I'm delightful.
You're
I'm just
like,
letting you know
just in different scenarios, it's become the joke,
that you're
I'm
delightful,
a
Dixie.
delight.
I'm a delight. Doggone it.
That's
That's
right. Oh my
uh
goodness.
well,
That's
I'm
so
anxious to
funny.
hear about your experience for this week. We're calling this week Zen in Real Life.
Mhm.
I could chant or for you if you want me to.
That's
Um,
right. I love
hey,
it.
we took
I
the
love it.
opportunity to do 3 different types of meditation this week, and for me, I was really excited about it because that's something that's always kind of been a part of my routine, but not always consistently, and it's just one of those things where it depends on the season of life and what's happening,
Yeah.
and usually the seasons of life where it falls away are the seasons of life where I need it the most, but there you
Right?
go. There you go. That's something that I have found, but for this past week rather, we have decided to take on 3 different types of meditation. It can be anything
Mhm.
that you choose. I'm really excited to hear how this went for you. Tell
Mhm.
me about it. What did you choose?
Um, well, I just based on like my faith, I have like a prayer um practice that's tied to gratitude. And so I one one of actually more than one day, I just um like prayed through, meditated, was just still,
Mm,
um, and thought about all the things that I'm grateful for in my
yes.
life. And I did that, which is kind of a gratitude practice, but I kind of made it a meditation and
Mhm.
focusing on those things, not just, hey, I'm grateful for the, I always journal like 3 things I'm grateful for. And then I just kind of move on with my day. So I just
Yeah.
kind of simmered in that a little bit.
Okay.
And one I did just like a visualization,
Mhm.
visualizing some things that are coming up and how I want them to look.
Yeah.
And and then I did just a simple just really sit and kind of clear the
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
of the things that I mean, I have our life right now is, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in our life right now,
Mhm.
as everybody's life. That doesn't make me special. You have a lot of moving parts in your life too. So,
Yeah, everybody
um,
does.
and there's a lot of transition. Like there's some
Mhm.
transitions going on in our house, and so just to kind of make the mind just cease to run so fast is
Yeah.
so hard to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
That's the more challenging one
Yeah.
for me. I can
And
be
I
grateful, I can visualize things. I love visualization.
Mhm.
So just the mind, settling the mind and not trying not to think on anything and just be
Mhm.
at peace. That's really hard for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was saying when I really need meditation is usually when it's the first thing to go. And,
Hmm.
I used to think there's a couple different like misnomers that I used to think about meditation. One was that if I meditated too much or got too in tune with my inner thoughts, that I'm going to start like being a hyper aggressive intuitive person, and I'm going to start seeing things, and I'm going to start, all the things that I don't want to know, which was
Right.
really weird. Okay, that was before I really knew much about what meditation was. Then
Hmm.
I had a really dear friend sit down and say, like meditation is really just centering yourself, what for
Hmm.
whatever practice that looks like. And so like you explained prayer, that's a
Hmm.
big piece of that. That's a great meditation for you. And you described visualization, same
Hmm.
thing. For me, when I tend to get in those places of I have to spend a certain amount of time meditating for it to make a difference, that was my other misnomer. it
Mhm.
goes out the window. And like I said, that's usually the time in my life when I need it the most, when I need that calmness and I need that space and I need that consistency on that level to help balance everything out
Mhm.
because everything's just going crazy. And here we are saying we're so busy because we are, just like everybody listening to this is, and
Mhm.
the moving parts, tend to not stop. And like here we are saying, "Hey, throw something else in there because you really should." Like,
Right. Hey,
I it
why don't you plan to stop a minute?
yeah. Hey, by the way, yeah, stop a minute.
Right.
But I
Mhm.
did also when at about the same time when a girlfriend sat me down and said, "No, this is really what meditation is. It's not it doesn't have to be this frou-frou kind of thing where you're sitting like at the end of yoga classes." And I'm a former yoga instructor, and
Mhm.
some
Mhm.
of the different classes that I took, I really loved this chanting at the end, and I really loved being silent at the end. But I think through all of that process, I learned you find what works for you, and that's what you grab hold of, and
Mhm.
that's where you go. Around that same time, I was let off the hook by a friend that said, "You're so busy at home." This is when my kids were little,
Yeah.
that when you're washing the dishes, meditate. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
"But I'm supposed to be sitting down. I'm supposed to be quiet. The surroundings are supposed to be calm." She's like,
I'm
What
supposed
is
to
this
be
supposed to
crisscross
be?"
applesauce. My hands are
Yes.
pushing out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, she's like, "Why? Like, let yourself have some grace and some space here because you don't have to create the perfect scenario to meditate." And
Mhm.
that just like hit me like a ton of bricks. And
Mhm.
I remember doing the dishes that night before I went to bed and going, "I'm just going to slow down this process of
Mhm.
washing these dishes." As simple as it is, just actively slowing down in my actions and therefore slowing down in my mind. It all kind of came together. And what would
Mhm.
have taken me 10 minutes to wash the dishes took me like 15 minutes, but I was
Yeah.
doing it mindfully. And her
Mhm.
point was that if you are mindful about the action that you're doing, it almost becomes this moving meditation or this spontaneous meditation that you can have on the regular, really.
Oh, yeah, I had the same experience. This week I was baking and I was doing some things and I realized how peaceful I was, and it was quiet and it was peaceful and nobody was around and it was just me and this thing I was doing, and it became so peaceful, so much so that I told my son, I was like, this process of this baking this or making sure this dough is right, um is brought me so much peace. And it
Wow.
was crazy that you say that.
Yeah.
um and I told him, I was like, it was almost like I was, I mean, for lack of a better word, I was like in a flow state
Yeah.
almost. I was
Yes.
so peaceful and calm, and it was, I don't know, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I
No,
liked it.
totally. I absolutely know 100% what you're saying. It does become like a flow state. And you talk about runners that are in that state of flow and that hyper vigilant kind of
Hmm.
runner's high that they get. You
Yeah.
can apply the same type of thought and the same type of analysis to this kind of moving meditation, if you will.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
whether it's whether you're walking or you're jogging, if we're doing a physical activity and you don't have any music on and you start listening to your breath on the inhale as you step and the exhale as you step, or the visual, I want to go back to the visualization too, because I think that's a big part of it as well. You have to be really mindful of being present and visualizing space at the same
Hmm.
time. And that's
Hmm.
I feel like I'm kind of getting a little bit out there when I'm saying that, but
Well, I think, for me, visualization is very much tied to faith. I think people are
mm,
afraid of the word visualization,
yeah,
um, particularly in, like, I've heard people that say, "Oh, it's not, it's this or that. If you visualize, that's not
right.
whatever." And I think that for me, I believe that God puts desires in my heart, and when I visualize those things, it's like faith. It's like I mean, if you're
Mhm.
somebody who reads the Bible, it says that faith is the hope of things that aren't seen. And so if I'm
Mm.
hoping for something that's not seen, but I'm seeing it in my mind and in my heart, and I believe God's put that desire there, I just think it's a way of walking out my faith.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Yeah.
and I like we're doing this high rocks at the end of Anna and I at the and my daughter and I at the end of March.
Mhm.
And because I've had bronchitis twice in the
Mm.
last like 3 months, my training has gotten like behind.
Mhm.
And so I just took time to visualize what I want myself to look like doing these implementations of this race.
Right.
And it's not that's something very small. That's not life altering, but I see myself running
Mhm.
with no pain. I
Mhm.
see myself, doing wall balls, and I see myself skiing, and just I picture myself doing that
Mhm.
and having fun and being in a place where it is fun and it's not stressful, um and I think that's huge. I think we can set the tone, if you will, or set the things in place. I still have
Yes.
to do my I still have to do my end of the bargain. I can't just visualize something. I can't visualize this version of myself and
Yeah.
just like sit on the couch and eat pizza
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a responsibility on my part too. But as I visualize it, it almost makes those things come more natural.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. That's
Absolutely.
kind of how I view visualization. That's just a very simplistic thing. But I did I've talked about it before on other podcasts, but I did a 75 hard a little over 2 years ago. And one of the phases, you had to do 10 minutes of visualization. And at this point in the journey, I was not running. I had quit
Mm.
running,
Mhm.
I was a gymnast and a dancer and did some great, great damage to my joints, um,
Yeah.
growing up. So um, I started visualizing myself running, and I would watch myself run um like in front of my house on the street.
Yeah.
And then I remember the day where I actually ran in front of my house on the street, and I was like,
Woo.
wow, I've been visualizing this for like a month and here we are.
Yeah.
We it But I mean, I was doing the work too.
Yeah. And I wanna
But it's
say that
almost
too.
yeah, it's almost building belief. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Ooh,
Maybe.
building
I don't know.
belief.
For
Yeah,
me.
that's a great way to describe visualization. I wanna go back to that putting in the work thing. I talked with a minister about this at one point because it was a really interesting question. I've known people in my life that have been like, if God wants it to be done, he's gonna bring it to me. And I've known 2 different types of people that have said that. One that they're like, "I'm willing to put the work in because I have this on my heart for a reason. It's been planted there." Like you said, I like those desires have been placed there, right? So
Hmm.
how do I unearth them? And for you, that visualization is kind of an unearthing of them. And you're doing the work alongside of it to be bringing it into fruition at some
Hmm.
point for you
Hmm.
with no expectations on what that looks like. It's a passion that has been placed inside of you.
Hmm.
That person versus the person that doesn't do anything proactively alongside that passion, that believes that if I feel like God is going to take me to where I need to be taken to, I'm just going to sit here and wait and not actively construct on it. And it was a really interesting conversation because he was giving me both sides of the fence, basically, that
Hmm.
there is merit in both belief, and that it all really shapes back to our perspective and our willingness to really dive into what we're here to do as people and as humans,
Hmm.
and what has been placed in us, on us, the things that we are really so passionate about, and the gifts that we have, the gifts
Hmm.
that we all possess. Every one of us possesses a gift. The guy that collects the garbage every Friday morning at the corner of my driveway,
Hmm.
he has amazing gifts. I don't know what they are, but he's got them. And
Right.
we are all capable of unearthing those and stepping into those desires. I think you have to find what works for you to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
meditation and visualization and what you explained is a really great tool. And I have found too that meditating for me helps really bring those things closer when I'm
Mhm.
not even putting expectations on them, when I just go into a place of centering and calming myself and allowing myself to just be still for a few moments or a few minutes. And
Mhm.
I can't sit very long. I used to do it a lot longer before I had kids. Right? And then
Yeah.
kids come along and it changes your whole world is turned upside down. But
Mhm.
I still now, even though my kids are grown or growing or almost grown, I have more time, but I think for me, a good sweet spot is about a 10 to 15 minutes, and that's about all I got. And it's enough for me to go, all right, shut down in that mindful, silent meditation that you're talking
Mhm.
about, kind of just sit and get centered. That was one of the things that I did specifically this week. And I've done it periodically, like I said, depending upon the season. But that was a really beneficial one for me this week because I came out of it going, I'm more clear on what it is that I was really confused about yesterday without me even saying, "Hey, my intention for this meditation is to become clear on this subject." You
Mhm.
know, it just
Mhm.
created enough space or it created enough downtime in my brain
Yeah.
maybe to
Mhm.
help the right things capitulate that needed to come forth. Now, you always tell clients like we have like it's this, you talk about simplifying it. I talk about a front office and a back office, like in our brain, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
we
cool.
have, yeah, we're using what, 10% of our brain we're using.
Yeah.
So the other roughly 85, 90%, depending upon the person, is doing this work in the back office. And like, what happens in the mailroom? Like, we're
Right.
filing, we're faxing, we're sorting, we're doing all the things.
Yeah.
So, all the different things going on. And every so often, a file will shoot forward into that front office on that front office desk. And you're like, oh, I probably should look at this. And,
Right.
or, oh, there's the answer to that thing that I've been thinking about and I haven't been able to figure out. And
Right.
for me, meditation a lot of times opens that hatch to the back office and
Mhm.
allows that information that my brain and my body and my mind is like crunching on in that
Mhm.
90% subconscious that's not being used. It's
Yeah.
really a simplistic way to look at it, but
No, it's really cool. The front office and the back office. I
yeah,
like it. I like
I
it. I
mean,
like
I
it a
you
lot.
know.
I think too, you mentioned you talked to a minister about like action and being still or whatever. And I think I fall on the sword of action, um,
Mhm,
because I think that that's where like I can visualize, but if I don't take some action, then that just becomes like, I don't know, like still water, like things
mhm.
that grow in still water
Yeah.
are like not good if it
Yeah,
doesn't
stagnancy.
get some movement in there.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's the same for me, you know. I think that when I'm in those states of sometimes I'll visualize certain things, or sometimes when I'm in those moments where I'm just still and
Mhm.
peaceful, things will come to mind. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like you're saying, something from the back office just pops in.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I think that's another way of just God showing me what's important, and then I get to act on it.
Yeah.
Um, because, you know, you hear people say all the time, you know, um, particularly in a Christian faith, like faith without works is dead. You know, they say that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think people get confused and they think they just got to be doing all these things all the time. And I think what it means is if I say that I've got a heart for this or I have a desire to do this, then it's going to create action in
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't create action, it's probably not a real desire. Like I
Oh,
can
wow.
say
Yeah.
I love the poor. I can say I want to help. I you know, I have a heart for those in need, but if
Mhm.
I'm not doing anything about it, then I probably really don't feel that way. It's just a
That's
nice thing to say,
that's
right?
a mic drop moment right there, Dixie. That's
But I feel that
huge.
way in my own life too. Like if I'm
Yeah,
saying that these things are important, not just that in particular, but all the whatever it is,
everything. Yeah.
it could be something as deep and meaningful as helping somebody in need, or it could be something like a race, or it could be something like some career path or whatever, if you say this is important, then you do the things to bring it about. And I
Yes.
think that being still, visualizing, like meditation, prayer, however that looks for you, I think for me is it's pretty instrumental for me
Yeah.
to sit down
Same.
daily and visualize that stuff
Yeah.
and just put
Same.
my belief there,
Hmm. Yeah. I
But
don't know that I don't know that I do it every day. I know you are so good about that morning routine, and I love that you bring that to this podcast because it's a real testament to the things that you are and the words that come out of your mouth every week when we talk. It's great stuff.
I'm
And
totally not perfect at it and I miss it from time to time, but it's so important to me. I've just realized how much better of a human I am, how
yeah,
much better I
yeah,
show up for
yeah,
myself and for other people if I just take that time. And
just totally.
it's not a super long time, but
Mhm.
it's quality over
Yeah.
quantity.
Quality
Yeah.
over quantity is that's really the big picture here that you got to keep in mind in terms of all of these different things that we're doing through this year. It's quality over quantity. It's not about taking everything that we're doing and making it all say, "Oh, we got to do this and this, we got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this to be a better person and I got to do this to help me unearth this and will make me feel X, Y, and Z." No, it's finding the quality pieces. It's
Mhm.
the blocks that fit for your life. And then
Mhm.
fine tuning what you need to do less of, what you need to do more of, what that looks like within that building block, a lot of different things. Hey, and I'm curious to know, and I'll get back into the couple other meditation types that I did, but I'm curious to
Yeah.
know what your thoughts are. Do you think the word meditation, because you were talking about that, like if you describe it as that, do you think that when someone says that, it kind of has a bad rap to it? That sometimes people go, "Oh, meditation," and they have a connotation that looks like this is what that really is. And if I hear that you're meditating, I may think that you're a fruitcake.
I do think that sometimes that happens.
Mm.
um, um, but I mean, honestly, I think that this is probably going to be controversial, but that's okay.
It's okay.
um, Particularly with my friends of a Christian faith. I mean, I'm a Christ follower.
Mhm,
And I think that words like meditation, visualization, I think they're associated in that particular brand of faith are associated with like, oh, you're woo woo.
yeah,
That's not God. That's not whatever. If
yeah.
it's not under the umbrella of like the Holy Spirit or something like that, then it's not, then it's gets that kind of bad rap.
Mhm,
But I think that um, everywhere I read, I mean, Jesus went off to be alone to
mhm,
strengthen.
mm,
Um, it says the Bible talks about meditating on the word.
yeah,
It talks about there's a lot of things like that. And so anytime that I don't think it's just a blanket statement. Like if somebody says meditation, it's like, ugh, because you
yeah,
can clearly meditate on things that aren't wholesome and good and
right,
truthful and honorable or whatever, and that's probably not a good thing,
right.
but I think it's all in the intent.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
so I think people hear the word and they make a judgment before they know the intent,
Yeah,
and that is dangerous on any spectrum,
for sure.
regardless meditation or anything else. If I don't know the intent of the heart behind it, how do I know?
Right.
If I say I'm meditating or visualizing, I'm not, sitting in the middle of my floor, calling in all the spirits or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm simply just sitting in a quiet space with my creator and allowing myself to, you know, um, hear and
Mhm.
respond.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you can hear my dog barking, but I apologize if you can.
He's wanting to be heard.
I know he is. That's
Yeah.
why.
But what you're talking about is true connection, and I think that for all of us, that's our goal, is to really find that connection to our spiritual side, and
Mhm,
for me, growing up in the household that I grew up in, it was very fundamentalist Christian type of household, which was a
yeah,
wonderful upbringing for me. And it
sure.
gave me a really great base to kind of expand upon. I don't know that my parents would feel exactly beautiful about, yeah, oh, that's great. You meditate, or oh, that's great. You have
Mhm,
one of your best friends is a Buddhist, and you go sometimes with her to their get-togethers and
mhm,
do things with that, or like, or Sunday mornings I'll sit, I won't go to church, I'll sit and read my devotional, or I'll do
mhm,
a movie meditation or something of that way. And again, a minister talked to me about this one too. It's about
mhm,
finding your building, and we all have our buildings that are in this same village. And this
mhm,
is really, like, I'm probably oversimplifying this one, but if you have found your building to be a specific faith or a specific calling, and that's your intent that helps you be the best person morally and upstandingly within your life and within the communities that you serve, then that's important. That's your
mhm,
building. It may not be synonymous with the person that I am, but if my building is next door to you and I open the door and I'm doing something completely different, but I'm morally connected to that spiritual side for
mhm,
me, and then I can
mhm,
come outside of my house, my outside of my building, and join forces in a really connected way of being that intentional person that is gracious and is caring, is morally upstanding and
mhm,
plugged into, you know, doing the best that we can in the moments that we have. That's really what we're here to be. I think that's what God is calling us to be. And through
mhm,
meditation, it can really help give you those little God whispers,
mhm,
those things that you're quieting your mind, you're quieting your body, you're quieting the chatter that keeps going on. And
mhm,
when we do that, we can hear a lot of those smaller
mhm.
inklings that God is trying to put within us, that all of the extraneous noise, my older daughter will say, there's so much noise around us,
Mhm.
that centering and calming turns the volume button on that noise down and helps us hear those whispers that are truly from that spiritual side for us and truly of your faith. So
Oh,
again, there I
yeah.
went off totally off the deep end
No,
for that one.
but I think too, I think some people don't appreciate, or they say, "Oh, I can never do that," like, to quiet, because
Mm.
when you do quiet, when you do hear, now you're responsible. And so
Oh,
if I can have the noise, if I don't silence it, then I'm not responsible
wow. Yeah,
for what I'm not hearing.
yeah.
But if I'm brave enough to sit down and still and quiet my mind and my heart, and allow for me, um God, the Holy Spirit, to speak to me, then I'm responsible for what I hear. So I
Wow.
think people they talk about the noise, but I think a lot of times they're comfortable in the noise
Mm.
because it's not calling you
Mhm.
out of anything. It's you get to stay there.
That's crazy. Again, another mic drop moment.
Right, and
Saying,
commiserate. How many people do we know that are just commiserating
yeah,
in the noise, and that's where they're comfortable,
I do
you
it.
know?
I do it.
I
I
mean, we all
commiserate
do.
in the noise. I think that that's like what I was saying initially. I think that the quieting of my mind and my body for a period of time each day, when it goes away, is when I need it the most, because that's when I'm
Right.
avoiding hearing those things, because I feel like that the volume is whooped all the way up and
Yeah.
there's so much going on. And a lot of that is self-created, self-induced, which
Mm.
I think we have that propensity to do. But
Oh, yeah.
when you hear it, you become responsible for it. Oh,
It's like I went to Cambodia on, I've been there several times. I have a friend that has a non-government agency organization over there, and she works with children that are in a human trafficking situation.
Yeah.
First time I went over there, I was like, my mind was just blown
Mm.
that these types of things happen
Mhm.
in like a whole society and our culture,
Yeah.
a whole culture. And when I left, I had a friend of mine say, the beautiful thing, and then it just burned in my heart, like,
Mhm.
I have to do something.
Mm.
And because when I saw it, it was like, I no longer can say that I don't know, that
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know before, but now the excuse of, well, I just didn't know, I don't get to say that anymore. So now I'm responsible for how I
Mm.
handle this experience.
Right.
And I think it's the same with stilling,
Right. I would totally agree.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree. Oh, wow, that's power. It's powerful when you say it like that and when you explain it because it makes it just really drives home the point that we are fundamentally responsible for our actions and our reactions and that when we are given the opportunity to understand more about something or something is placed in our path, there's a real reason for that. There's a real reason for that,
Hmm.
whether you want to connotate it as being good or bad or
Right.
I try not to go to those good and bad. It is. It's interesting.
Right.
I try to go with this, oh, that's really interesting kind of thought process instead of, oh,
Hmm.
that's really bad or oh, that's really good. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. And then I
Yeah.
have a little bit more breadth in my mindset
Hmm.
to go, okay, I'm capable of stepping into this information and doing something about it and reacting accordingly, or I'm capable of demonstrating what it is that I need to do and helping with, whatever it is. But
Yeah. It's
I
not
think,
having, it's, you get to decide what you give power to.
right,
Um,
right.
because I do believe that we don't control our thoughts. They just come at us because we live in this world, and
Yeah.
I can't always control, like, I said it the other day. Like, people talk about intrusive thoughts. Like, you think something and you're like, no, that's not what I think. That's
Yeah.
not what I believe, or whatever. Um, and then I get to decide the power I give to it. So the same thing with like when you're
Mm,
stilling, you know, sometimes it's thoughts where you have to go, nope, mm-mm, that's not who I am.
yeah.
Because I mean, we live in a crazy world,
Mhm.
but not giving it good or bad, just giving it, it is what it is, and then
Yeah.
I get to decide what power I give to it. It's just a
Yeah.
thought, and I
Yeah.
get to decide whether it has power or not, or whether it gets action behind it, or whether it gets silenced.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we have to silence thoughts.
For
It's
sure.
kind of like the, like, I think it's not us and them. It's just, we're all just people.
Yeah.
And same thing with the thoughts. They're just
Yeah.
thoughts. So we get to decide,
Yeah.
the power we give
Totally.
to it.
Totally, totally. And that whole idea of it just goes back to the first thing that I said when I talked to somebody initially and what I thought meditation was that I was scared of what I was going to see, scared of what I
Yeah.
was going to hear. Like because that what you said just really makes that helps me understand yet another level of it. So thank you for that.
Hmm.
That
Oh.
it becomes a responsibility once we see it. But then the next step, what you just explained, is then we have choice after that,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
great. So great.
Yeah.
Um, I'm interested to talk about two. There's two other meditations that I did, and they're a little bit different than that kind of that deep thoughts that we're kind of coming out of right now. But they still induce those same kind of patterns of thought, if you will.
Yeah.
One of them was when I was done exercising and I went to stretch. I laid down on the floor and I was like, "Oh my god!" It just like it was a really hard workout. It felt great to just lay there. And I said, gosh, I used to do this all the time with yoga. We do like progressive relaxation, like tense up my arms and my shoulders and my jaw, and then as I exhale, just like let it all go. I
Hmm.
progressively go through different parts of the body to do that active progressive relaxation. And then at the
Hmm.
end, when everything is just chill, you're just allowing yourself to kind of Now this is going to sound crazy. Go with me on this one. Like almost like you could float up off the ground, yet you could sink into the ground. So you're really
Uh-huh.
heavy and dense, but you're in the same words, you're really light, like you're not attached to anything and your body is super, super open and super free.
Hmm.
There's my little woo woo for the day.
That
But
just feels like total relaxation to me. I feel that way sometimes when I get like a massage. You feel like your
yes.
body's just sinking in to the
Yep.
table, yet you feel super light. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of the, I don't know, I equate it to that, but
Yeah, absolutely. Totally, totally.
that's
And
my favorite thing about yoga. I suffer through yoga so that I
oh,
can have the 5 minutes at the end
oh,
where I'm just like
right. The
so zen and
shavasana.
peaceful.
Yeah, you like the shavasana. There you're yeah, there's your meditation.
I know.
Absolutely.
It's worth
And
it. It's worth the sweating and the pain and the all of the things.
for the shavasana. I get that.
Yes.
I'm with
I know
you.
you're a yoga instructor, so I'm sure you love all the poses. I'm just like, my whole body's shaking when I'm trying to do stuff. And I'm like, okay, if I can just hang on for like 20 more minutes, I get 10
I
of
get this
just
time.
nothing. I'm so
Yes,
excited.
I am plugged in. Sign me up. I've got it.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, I interestingly, I think when I started yoga, I it was opposite than it is now. And it's probably age and maturity too.
Hmm.
And, knowing that the movements are super important, but
Yeah.
my emphasis used to be on, yes, I really diving into these movements. And it's not that it's not there anymore, but my emphasis where I really dive into is that shavasana, that time where you're
Hmm.
just kind of letting yourself be
Hmm.
and exist and not have to do, letting yourself be and not having to do. Like
Yeah.
that's the
So
thing.
nice.
Yeah. Hey,
So
have you
nice.
you I know you've heard of Deepak Chopra? You've heard of him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So for a long time, I used to do his 21-day meditation challenges. Have you heard
Oh,
of
okay.
those?
I've heard of 21-day meditation challenges, but I'm not sure if it was his specifically.
Yeah, he did those for a long time back in the, let's see, when did I do that? 2000 and 2015, 16, 17, 18. I think he
Yeah.
still has some of them on Spotify that you can check into. It's like a 21 days worth, and they're each like anywhere between 10, 11, 12 minutes and 15 to 20 minutes. And he
Hmm.
comes on and talks about what it is that the intention is for the meditation for the day. And then he talks about consciously finding yourself in a place where you can be relaxed and talks about your breath and how
Hmm.
to just calm your breath and what to do, how to count it through. And then he says, no, he's going to go away for like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 minutes of total just easy music in the background with
Hmm.
him not speaking. So he's kind of gone through all the different things. He goes through why it is you're doing it. He goes through, let's get in the activity and set your body up for it. And then let's just exist and be. And
Yeah.
I love, 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 love that. If it's something that you find yourself interested in knowing more about, Deepak Chopra, you probably can Google that one up and find some of
Yeah.
his 21-day challenges. Like I said, I know I
That's
saw
cool.
one on Spotify recently, but I don't know
Hmm.
he's done any recent in the last few years, but I do know how beneficial those were for me to do. And I
Hmm.
looked forward to that time for 21 days. I like
Yeah.
I dove into it and said, "Oh my god, I get to like yay." Okay. Whether I did it in the
This is
morning,
so,
whether
yeah.
yeah, whether it was over my lunch time, whether it was at the end of the day, didn't really matter. And his connotation is that it doesn't really matter when you
Hmm.
do it, as long as you're finding a place to plug it in and make it happen for you.
Yeah, that's cool. I
Mhm.
think too, you said you did two different kinds. What was your other one?
Oh, it was I actually pulled one of his back up
Oh,
because
pull
I
one of
had
his. Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I
Well, you
made
were talking about like the after you're exercising,
yeah,
and we've talked about this on other podcasts, but I love like box breathing. That becomes like meditative for me too. Like
right.
sometimes if I'm at the gym, even if there's a ton of people around, I'll just go find a spot and just sit down and
Oh,
box breathe because I just love that settling,
yeah.
that just settling everything down
Yep.
and everything just kind of slows down. I love that.
Yes. Yeah, and again, there's so many different types of meditation that you can
Mhm.
find, and it doesn't have to be complex.
Mm-mm.
It can just be what it is. It can be, "Man, I'm gonna pour my coffee and I'm gonna sit down." And like we talked about the last episode we taped about that first drink of coffee in the morning
Mhm.
for us is like, it's amazing. And
Right.
there's almost a piece of I take that first sip and I'm like, "I'm so thankful that I am here. I'm so thankful for this coffee. I'm so like,
Right?
and it's a that's
Girl,
goofy.
I'm thankful for my coffee every day. I sit down, I'm like, "Oh, I'm so grateful for this coffee." But that's, but I think that that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be super deep, but then you can
Yes.
go super deep if that's what you want.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
up to you. It's up to what you need that day. What I mean, there's some days where my gratitude um practice and what I really focus on in the morning is coffee. And
Yes.
the
Yeah.
sun is shining, it's not cloudy.
Yeah.
Yesterday, it was that it was almost 70 degrees. I mean, like,
Yeah.
things like that. And then some mornings, it's deeper, it's, more I don't wanna say more meaningful, but yeah, I guess more meaningful, it affects
Mhm.
me differently.
Mhm.
Um, so it doesn't have to be like,
Yeah.
it's not weird or crazy. It's just a centering and whatever that looks like,
Yes. Yeah, I
you know.
think you just explained it absolutely perfectly right there.
Yeah.
Meditation 101. Perfect. It has to be what works for you, and
Mhm.
I'm really glad that we did this because, like I said, I kinda had gotten away from a little bit of that meditation for me, and it showed me just how important it really is for me to be doing on a regular basis, and I'm not saying every day is my regular basis, but
Yeah.
at least a couple times a week, I can make time for that, and
Heck yeah.
I can carve out that space, whether it's through an actual activity that I'm doing or whether it's, specifically something very mindful of, I'm going to do this kind of meditation today. But
Right.
the whole goal is to calm the mind, calm the body, and really dive into a deeper space of who you are and
Mhm.
what your desires are, what your passions are, and hearing all those different things. I love how you tied it into the spiritual piece because it's so, so, so true. So
Mhm.
true. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yay. All right.
Yay.
Well, kids, go out and
This
get
was
your
fun to
Zen.
talk about. Sorry,
Yeah.
I totally interrupted you, but this was really fun to talk about and to dissect. So,
I totally agree. I can
mhm.
talk meditation all day long and talk all the different avenues that we went down all day long.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And no
Yeah.
doubt, next week we probably will.
Right?
Great. Yeah. Well, until then, guys, Zen in real life.
There you go. Do
Go get
it.
you some time, right? Get you some movie meditation, get you some calm space, get you some breath work. Right? Take some time for yourself because you deserve it. Yeah.
You absolutely do.
All right. Well, until next week, my name is Dawn, and
And I'm Dixie.
yeah, we'll see you again soon, guys.
Alrighty. Bye.